Hello, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. So, today we're talking about mental illness among older adults, and we're also getting into the religious brainwashing, unfortunately, that some of these groups are participating in while preying on the elderly. So, this is definitely a message you will want to listen to. We know that right now there are very, very disappointed individuals who are upset because of all of the rapid change that is going on with government and with monies that are impacting their wallets. They are very disappointed at the news that is coming out more and more about their favorite celebrities. Information that is not good concerning political figures as well as the president. And when people feel down, when people can't handle a lot of change, especially seniors, they will act in interesting ways that some of you all will raise your eyebrows, because mentally it's too much to handle. If someone is spending long hours watching negative news, they will be impacted. If someone is out among a bunch of negative Nancys, they are going to be impacted. And then, on top of that, they have their personal health issues. Let's stay there for a moment. An article that I took a look at talks about some of the mental illnesses that affect older adults. Okay? This article is on NCOA.org's website, which is the National Council on Aging. The article is entitled Mental Illness in Older Adults, What to Know About Symptoms and Treatment. It was published on May 2nd, 2025. So we are talking about something very recent, okay, that is occurring among older Americans. So, according to the article, 1 in 5 Americans will experience a mental illness in their lifetime. So, some of these older adults may have talked about this one and that one in the family having their share of mental dramas and traumas back when they were younger, and now fast forward 50 plus and older, and there's some type of mental health disorder. This aging population, what's happening here is their mental health disorders are expected to double by the year 2030. Okay? Anyone who has worked with individuals who suffer with mental illness, you know that at times you can't always believe everything that they say. You can't always trust that they have done everything that they've claimed to have done. They will swear up and down that someone stole something and someone really didn't. You find out later. They will tell you that they have complete control over their finances, over getting the house taken care of, the car maintained, the doctor's appointments, the bills being paid for and everything else, and then you find out that that's not what's happening. I'm coming where someone is. Stay on this audio so that you can be able to get some insight. There's a lot of mental illness that is going on, saints as well as sinners. And this is the underdiagnosed type of mental illness, the undertreated illnesses. There are those that walk among us that have never received any treatment whatsoever. And when we step out and we say, hey, it's time. I know you told me to get my health in order. Now I'm turning it back on you. Some individuals don't want to go there. No. Therapy is for you. Seeing your doctor and getting your prescribed medicine is for you, not for me. Because I'm a blood-bought, born-again believer, and I don't need any help. Ooh, Lord Jesus. There's some individuals that not only are we dealing with the mental health disorders, but we're dealing with religious brainwashing. Interesting. This is a faith-based channel, and I'm going to go there. Because there is the type of faith that one has that is a healthy, functional faith. But it also incorporates doctors and therapists, right? It also incorporates counselors and others that God has gifted to help us. But oh no, that one who is brainwashed, who I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, to the point where I don't need anybody. We have found from observation, we have found, some of you all who have worked with older people have found that they're more susceptible of being a part of a cult of some sort. That some of them are already a part of a cult that targeted them and exploited them, knowing full well that they're not as sharp as they used to be. And so that one who needs to make money, he's not caring so much about grandma and granddad. The neighbor who has a long history of hustling some folk doesn't care too much about that loved one. All they want is what they want when they want. And some of you all, you've been moved to go check on some folk, and you did answer the call. Very good, very good. Others, you did not. And so the cup is going to run away with the spoon. And it's unfortunate, because if only someone would have paid attention to mama's mental decline, daddy's forgetfulness, that has turned into something a bit more. Not maintaining body hygiene. Not remembering to put gas in the car tank. Drinking too much. Going here, there, and everywhere, and forgetting how they got here, there, and everywhere. Oh, come on. I'm coming where someone is. Let's start with why the senior citizens are vulnerable. If grandma already has a mental illness of some sort, it is exhibiting some signs. She may be isolating herself. All before, she loved getting out and about, but not so much. She started isolating herself maybe a long time ago when she lost her spouse. And then after a while, everybody just says, well, grandma's just being grandma. But is she? Those who knew her at one point for being quite the busy one is seeing something different. She may be covering that up by saying, I'm just spending more time with the Lord. But is she really spending more time with the Lord, or is there something more going on? This is where you're going to have to pay closer attention. She could be isolating herself because she had a falling out, but she doesn't stay in that space. Eventually she comes back around and she starts talking to everyone and going places and doing any number of things. We don't have to watch her so closely, but that one who she's not coming back, this is where she is. In a room somewhere, spending hours and hours, or in a house somewhere, not really wanting anyone to stop by, claiming she's busy when she's really not. She could be doom scrolling as far as we know. I'm giving you an example. You could plug in grandpa, you can plug in your older brother, your older sister, an aunt, an uncle. But someone is exhibiting some questionable signs. She may be isolated since the relocation. She might be very particular about her social connections to the point where you're scratching your head and saying that's really no reason to not associate or connect with. Sometimes people, as I said in another audio, some of our elders will manipulate situations because I haven't seen you in a long time. When are you going to come see about me? If you haven't heard that audio, please do. Check that one out. 70 and up and still manipulating people. But some of these individuals who isolate themselves, they are susceptible to groups that will offer friendship and give them this sense that you're one of us. There may be these physical or mental challenges, going back to the mental illnesses, that is causing confusion. And so grandma is doing some things that she doesn't normally do, like join a group that, wait a minute, doesn't she hate those people? Why is she suddenly so accommodating? And then what is she doing? That's weird. You see, you're looking for behaviors that's out of character for grandma or for granddad. There's the age-related physical or cognitive decline. The mind is going, some individuals used to say back when we were younger of our elders. So the decisions that they would make, sometimes it just didn't make any sense. And then there were times where they would cave in to pressure, whereas before you would have put up a fight. You let that man sell you something that you really don't need. Mama, grandmama, auntie. What's happening? There's a lot happening. There's a lot. There's the physical and mental challenges. And if someone hasn't seen the doctor and doesn't want to see the doctor because God's going to fix it all, now you got yourself an uphill battle. Because she or he is going to keep resisting saying I'm fine when the writing on the wall and even God himself is telling you, no, she's not. She's saying God said this and God said that. And meanwhile, the God that you serve and you still got your wits about you, you're saying that one is going downhill. Some individuals who used to do the manipulating, it's interesting how now the manipulating has showed up and is taking the grandmother for a ride. She's being played by the hustler, by the gambler, by the liar, by the drunkard, by the pimp even. She's left wide open because she simply trusted this person, and the person who she trusted in is now looking for opportunity financially, might even be looking for a place to stay. And when someone isn't unwell mentally, they don't see things like you, once again, who you still have your wits about you. And when someone is dependent on someone who is holding the money bag, so to speak, there's really nothing you can do unless you get law involved. And for some individuals, that's just what they did. They ended up having a legal guardian to manage everything, because they found out that some folks were doing some very bad things to poor mom, poor dad, and others with mental decline. So the financial issues do show up. Someone's pension gets taken, their property, all of what is near and dear to them, their assets. Sometimes people donate a lot, to the point where you're wondering what's going on here. That hasn't happened on this channel, but there's been many a church that they didn't question why suddenly she was consistently giving tithes and offerings that was, let's just put a ballpark figure, $300 to $500, and now one day she's giving $20,000 and $30,000 plus dollars. And you know a needy church isn't going to question that. What is going on? I'll tell you that I came across another article, Spectrum News. This came out July 15th, 2025. And there's a picture of a woman who's using a walker, and she's heading to a room at a senior care home. And the header of this article says, older adults in the U.S. are increasingly dying from unintentional falls. And it was reported by Associated Press. Now think about that for a moment. Sometimes when people fall, they hit their head. Sometimes they'll fall and not tell anyone, and they'll suffer the consequences in silence until one day somebody sees a pant leg up or a shirt off, and they go, "Where did you get those bruises?" The article says from 2003 to 2023, death rates from falls rose more than 70% for adults ages 65 to 74. The report from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said the rate increased more than 75% for people 75 to 84 and more than doubled for seniors 85 and older. Falls continue to be a public health problem worth paying attention to, said Jeffrey Hoffman, a University of Michigan researcher who was not involved in the new report. It's curious that these rates keep rising. Exactly. And that's why I brought it up for some of you all to think about. The CDC researchers did not try to answer why death rates from falls are increasing, but experts say there may be a few reasons, like gradually improving our understanding of the role falls play in deaths and more people living longer, to ages when falls are more likely to have deadly consequences. Now, for some of you all, you do remember that there were those individuals who complained about all the various side effects when they got their share of jabs. You remember that? Now, if there are some woes that are associated with that, and it involves falling, which we did see videos back in 2020, that hasn't gone anywhere, where people would just suddenly fall over, then yeah, I can take an educated guess. And I could say allegedly that could be due to the increase of falls, among other things. You see, you have to look at the timing at which some of these things take place, and the fact that people are still, to date, injecting all sorts of things in their bodies. More than 41,000 retirement-age Americans died of falls in 2023. The most recent year for which final statistics based on death certificates are available. That suggests that falls were blamed in about 1 of every 56 deaths in older Americans that year. So picture yourself in a room with 56 individuals. Somebody in that room is going to die due to a fall. More than half of those 41,000 deaths were people 85 and older, the CDC found, and white people accounted for 87% of deaths in the oldest category. Okay. Falls can cause head injuries or broken bones that can lead to permanent disability and trigger a cascade of other health problems. A number of factors can contribute to falls, including changes in hearing and vision and medications that can cause lightheadedness. All right, so I'm going to stop right there. But yes, that article is at ny1.com, Spectrum News. Now, I say all of that to say that there's something brewing among the elders. Once again, another wave of something brewing. The reason for this is because every time we start getting into conversations among conspiracy theorist circles of something coming, there usually is something coming. And sometimes, though, the coming that everybody knows about is the distraction. But then there is something that shows up that nobody really didn't think too much about. The population control that some individuals were talking about years ago, in the same conversation with regard to C-19 at the time, and the jabs and everything else, how soon do some forget that there are those who still figure out ways to ruffle everybody's feathers up to the point where some of those birds in the group pass away. When one is so stressed over any number of issues, they are going to be more susceptible to having something that happens with mind, body, and spirit, which leads me back to the religious brainwashing that goes on. If you're so focused on, let's say, the rapture, and you're so focused on Jesus coming, you might overlook that you're closer to your grave than you realize, simply because you ignore the signs of what you're doing and what you're not doing. Stay with me. There is the older person, if you put yourself in the older person's shoes, who they're so focused on Jesus that they don't consider that Jesus himself is warning them of things that they're doing that will bring about a premature death. So it's easy for some individuals to focus on all things related to religion. And you pray, daughter, and you get your act together, and you stay close to the Lord. And you, son, you go over there, and you make sure that you're there at the church giving God all the honor and praise. And meanwhile, they're turning around and saying, but what about you? Oh, I'm good, I'm okay, I'm all right. And meanwhile, you may be the one not paying attention to the fact that this one has isolated herself, that this one has mental decline, that this one is more vulnerable to all sorts of shady individuals, that this one isn't keeping up with their money, that this one is being controlled by maybe something or someone on the internet or over the phone, and that they could be so involved with whatever their mind is telling them that is spiritual or religious, that they don't see what's coming with regard to their health. Hello. with regard to their health. Forget about the bigger picture with regard to government and what government is up to and what this entertainer is doing and what Jackie and Johnny and Bobby and Cindy and everybody else, just making up names, what they're doing. But what about you, senior? What about the medicine that you're supposed to take? What about the therapy that you were supposed to sign up for? What about taking a break from all the religious talk and just allowing someone to have a relationship with you without you becoming emotional and combative in conversation and overly zealous about sharing the word? Lord Jesus, some people aren't ready for that. Because there comes a point where, no, we're not going to talk about the demonic. We're not going to talk about the things related to what's happening in church or not happening in church. We're going to talk about how come you haven't taken care of yourself. You see? How come you haven't done what you know you should be doing? Because someone told me a while ago, and then I even reiterated this talking to a professional. I said that they, being the critics that didn't want members of the family to go and see a doctor, they looked at that as a sign of weakness. God was supposed to do it all. And that if God didn't do it all, then there must be something wrong with you. And they kept putting that sort of thing out in the atmosphere to the point where people wouldn't even part their lips that they went to go see a doctor or they went and got a prescription. They just kept some things to themselves. Some individuals are so focused on what not to do that when God himself says, this is what I want you to do, they ignore him. And I reminded one individual well into her years about disobedience. Confessing sin and repenting isn't just for that one who, look at Jezebel, look at Delilah. Confessing sin and repenting isn't just for the drug addict or the pimp player, hustler, liar, gambler. But confessing sin and repenting is also for the one who has been spiritually abusive, putting all sorts of guilt and shame on individuals, refusing to get necessary medical treatment, isolating oneself from family and friends because you really don't want them to see you, really see how you are going downhill. Oh, I am picking a scab off of someone right now. There are those who they know that they are not as sharp as they used to be. They know that they burned food a little too many times. They know that they fell out in the street somewhere. They know that they hid some things from themselves and couldn't find it. That they drove somewhere and forgot how to get home. They know these things. These are the senior secrets. And just like we can expose everybody else out there in mainstream media, someone needs to expose the fact that that one needs to get some help before she ends up causing a car accident and ruining a family. That one needs some help before the hustler takes all the money. That one needs some help that goes beyond just we'll pray for you. There are many seniors that are just left out here, coming and going. Sometimes they remember, sometimes they forget. Sometimes they falsely accuse, sometimes they lie. Yes, they do. Some of the what appears to be most strongest believers have something mentally wrong. And if you are the one that's up close and personal and you know this, and that one refuses to get necessary treatment, then at least talk to someone, whether doctor, police officer, lawyer, put something in writing. Get some type of counsel, because if that one does something, the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to say, where's the daughter? Where's the son? You see, where's the husband? Where's the wife? Oh, come on. Someone, I don't think you were ready for this message, but it is a little bit on the convicting side, is it not? Because some of you all, you have an excuse. You're over there in the other country somewhere. You see, you're across 50 states somewhere. But other folks who are right there in the same town. And those individuals who are mentally going downhill still haven't been put in a certain facility, whether it's retirement, assisted living, a nursing home, or just having a nurse or somebody to check on them. God forbid something happens, right? Just something for you to think about. Those that have close relationships know to call their loved ones. Those who care a lot about their loved ones, they will spend the time to research what is going on with my loved one. Why is it that they behave in the way that they behave? And if there is a concern, I want to give you 2 resources. Well, actually 3. You can contact your local adult protective services. You can contact a law enforcement agency. You have some resources in your city, town, borough. Elder Care Locator, the National Elder Fraud Hotline, and then, of course, specifically putting in your town, your city, your borough, to see what nonprofit organizations are available. And when it comes to financial abuse, whether the senior is abusing their own finances or someone else is, this is where you get the elder law attorneys involved. Okay. There are those trusts and powers of attorney that you can explore. And then, of course, the religious traumas and dramas, the spiritual abuse. Maybe it's the pastor and his wife that isn't so friendly and nice. Maybe there's some foolishness that's going on in that congregation. Maybe it's not them. Maybe it's their assistants. And that poor mom or dad is going through it at that church. There's an organization called Reclamation Collective. They offer virtual support as well as therapists that can help those that have been religiously traumatized. And there are grants out there that help Catholic religious congregations. One of the groups that receives those grants is SOAR, SOAR, which is Support Our Aging Religious. And I think with all of those resources, you'll be able to get the necessary help for yourself or for someone who you know has been going through a lot. I thank you as always for taking time out to listen. You've been listening to YouTube, NM Enterprise 7. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment. We do welcome giving on this channel. Thank you. The links are in the description box. Blessings to you.